Good morning. Today we are ringing our peace bowl. We affirm our collective hope for peace in the world, and God only knows that we need it right now. We acknowledge that these lands that we love are the ancestral lands of the Yavapai people, the Wikipayas, the Tokapayas, the Kiwapayas, and the Yavapai. So today we have some new musicians with us. Welcome Bill and Sue Ellen Dicker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who are going to start our program with an appropriate song.
When the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, then peace will guide the planets and love will steer the star. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius. 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 Harmony and understanding, sympathy and trust abounding. No more falsehoods or derisions, golden living dreams of vision, mystic crystal revelation, and the minds of true liberation. Aquarius. Aquarius. When the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, then peace will guide the planets and love will steer the star. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius. 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 Let the sun shine. Let the sun shine in. The sun shine in. Let the sun shine. Let the sun shine in. The sun shine in. Everybody. Let the sun shine. Get up and dance. Let the sun shine. The sun shine in. Everybody now. Let the sun shine. Oh, let it shine. Let the sun shine in. The sun shine in. Thank you, everyone.
Great. So how many people walked down memory lane with that one? And so I see we appropriately have quite a bit of tie-dye out there today. Wonderful. And Peter, you got a great tie on there. Okay, I'm Fred Krapps, your worship associate today, and we welcome you all to a warm welcome. All right. This is the mission statement of our congregation. We are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. So everybody who joined us afterwards, I don't think we have any punch, but I think we have coffee for tomorrow. Some people got that, others didn't, I think. But we will have coffee and I believe food back there. So join us after the service. And if you're joining us for the first time, do we have first-time people here today? Yes, okay. Well, we'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. Well, yes. Yeah, they don't count. Yes, they do. Okay. We'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself at the end of the service. So we want to thank our musicians, Bill and Sue Ellen Decker, and also Lena will be playing for us today as well. Elaine Hayes is filling out in control booth back there for Martin, who's off this weekend. And everybody realized what a large staff it does to put this thing together every Sunday. We have our house manager, we have our greeters, we have our ushers, and we have the hospitality crew back in the kitchen. That's quite a few people. So anybody feels the need to help volunteer, they'll always accept volunteers, I'm sure. Okay, we have one big announcement already right today. Barb, do you want to make your announcement to begin with?
On the way up here, I heard somebody say rummage sale. That's the only time I talk to you, isn't it? It's the rummage sale. But it is time for the rummage sale. And not only does it take a lot on Sunday morning to run this service, but you can imagine what it takes for 5 days a week when we put together enough stuff this year, we hope, to make $4,550, I think, is what they put us in the budget for to earn this year. And keep in mind, folks, most of that comes from outside in the community. It's not money out of our pockets. We're getting rid of those things we can do without, and the church is making money. But it takes a lot of people. Starts 4 weeks from today, putting things in the back, putting the chairs on the altar area, it's not an altar, what is it? Riser area, whatever, up here. And you can bring things in next Sunday. If you don't want to make a half a dozen trips during the week, you can bring things in on Sunday, pack them in the back along that wall, not along here. We put tables on this riser, so that can start next Sunday. Don't bring in, not next, I'm sorry, 4 weeks from today. Thank you. We want things clean. They don't have to be necessarily pressed real good, but please bring them in clean and not broken. And sometimes, if it's something that only you might know what it is, put a note on it what it is so that we'll know what it is. That especially happens with electronics and gadgets and things like that. If you're bringing in sheets, please size them for us. You know what bed they came off of and what size they are. When we have to spread those out and size a couple of dozen pair of sheets, it takes a lot of time. So if they're pre-sized, that's very helpful. I tried to think of what is the most important thing we need. Oh my goodness, the list is long. But the reality is, the most important thing we need is you. We can't do it without you. Charlotte and I cannot do it by ourselves. Anybody who's looked in this building before would know that in a heartbeat. We do have people who can pick up. We have men and trucks who can pick up things. If you need things picked up at your house, you need to let Charlotte know probably a week or so ahead of time so that she can arrange with men with trucks to be able to be there at the time designated. We don't have somebody standing by with a truck. We need cashiers. Cashiering is, we can't, what can we do if we have this room full of stuff and nobody to be there to take the money? So I have a list out there and I put an information in email. If you can't get back to me on what's in, you see an email, send me just an email. Don't try to sign up online. Clean up on Saturday is very important. We stop at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we have to have everything pretty much out of this room, chairs back in place, everything cleaned up, carpet cleaned, and everything that's left has to get boxed up, packaged up, and sent to some of the other thrift stores in town, CCJ and Noah and different ones that take our things, and men with trucks who can deliver to some of the places that won't send a truck to pick it up. Wednesday will be the last day to take in anything new. Comes in on Wednesday. If we can't get it finished on Wednesday, we still have to do it on Thursday, and by the end of Thursday, everything has to be available. Please don't try to bring something in Saturday morning you'd like to donate to the rummage sale. I will send you to CCJ if you do. We just can't do that. It's too big and too complicated. We have sign-up sheets in the back of Davis Hall, right in front of the choir doors, for every day of the week. I know it's soon, it's early, and some of you don't know for sure what days, but at least take a look at it and start getting it in your mind. They will be out there every week between now and sale times for you to sign up. It's helpful for us if we see, oh my gosh, on Thursday we have no one, and we need people. I would like, because I organize the setting up of everything, and we've done this in the past. It takes about 8 people. I divide it into sections of what a person would be responsible for, and 1 or 2 people who will say, I'll take that section. And the main thing you have to do is be here on Thursday to make sure it's finalized. We'll have people all week long, pricing, setting out, but we need somebody to check all of that. I had a lot of people come up to me last year and say, how much is this? It doesn't have a price. That's not good. I'm not good on the spot. I can do it with 2 or 3 people figuring out what to ask for something, but I may not even know what it is. So anyway, I'll be back there. I have to help count money after the service, but Charlotte will be available in Davis Hall right afterwards, and I'll be out there soon as I can get out there to answer any questions and help you decide. It's a great way for new people to meet others and have a good time. There are probably 6 people here, if I could say, would agree with that. They could raise their hands and vow to that. I mean, you meet people at coffee hour, but this is something that you're having fun doing. Oh, one other thing, if you work, you get to buy early. If you've worked 4 hours and you saw something you'd like to buy, we'll price it for you and you can take it home with you. You don't have to worry about, is it going to be there Friday or Saturday when I come in to buy it at the sale, if you work. Thanks.
Thanks, Barb. I guess I don't have any more announcements after that. Okay, well, in addition to those announcements, you can see our announcements every week in the weekly View. Is that what we're calling it now, the View, I believe, rather than the Peak? Yeah. Is it still the Peak? I don't know. I can't keep up with things anymore. Or on our website, or Reverend Patty's videos, or we have printed copies. Do we have any printed copies in the back? Do we know? No? All right. So I cut that out of the script. I would say Sandra Palacios, our Faith Development Coordinator, is teaching ages 5 and older across the street, and Ainsley in our nursery in this building for kids under 5. So now take a moment to make sure your phones are turned off. Everybody's phones off? All right. So our speaker today is Reverend Tom Catlin. Tom was born in Evanston, Illinois, and grew up in the Chicago area. He graduated from Denison University in 1971. He became a transcendental meditation teacher in 1974 and lived in California for a while. And here's an interesting one. He went back and got an associate's degree in hearing, heating, and air conditioning in 1980 and worked in the field of alternative energy. Tom was ordained, then he goes back again. Tom was ordained as a Unity minister in 1990 and came to Prescott that same year as the minister of Unity of Prescott. Tom and Pam, this is Pam up front. Tom and Pam were married in 1991, and Pam is a horticultural therapist, so people may want to talk to her about that. He retired from Unity of Prescott in 2014 and is currently as busy as he wants to be, doing some woodworking, occasional ministry responsibilities, and walking his dog, Lily. All right. We begin our service in the universal tradition of lighting the chalice. Our chalice lighter this morning is Bonnie Fort. May this flame, symbol of transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage, and seek what is good within and around us. Thank you, Bonnie. So our words of gathering today come from Martin Luther King. Nonviolence is the answer to the critical political and moral questions of our time. The need for mankind to overcome oppression and violence without resorting to oppression and violence. Mankind must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. We will not build a peaceful world by following a negative path. It is not enough to say we must not wage war. It is necessary to love peace and sacrifice for it. We must concentrate not merely on the negative expulsion of war, but on the positive affirmation of peace. We must see that peace represents a sweeter music, a cosmic melody that is far superior to the discords of war. So join me in saying our words of our covenant today. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is sacrament, and service is its prayer. Dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant together. During the next few moments, we remember our joys and sorrows. Oh, something's wrong here. Oh, the stewardship video, sorry. I had that written in here and I forgot all about it. So our stewardship video with Russ and Lena.
First became UU members of any sort at Granite Peak after moving here in 1999. We were pretty ready to join immediately over at the Adult Center after being received in a friendly way by some very special people, and with the minister, Jan Christian, and being there in that fine space under the disco ball, we were good to go.
After being unchurched for 35 years, the warm welcome that we felt at the Adult Center was a wonderful thing. That every other week fit in perfectly with my reintroduction to any kind of religion. And of course, having an interview with Jan Christian, we were ready to commit as soon as we had spoken to her.
And I do want to say that the very first time we went there, we had our two little elementary adopted kids from overseas, and they were doing the water communion. And I had read about it before I came, somehow caught wind of it. So I had my little film canister of Ganges waters. The last place we had lived was in India. So I brought it and poured a little of that, eat the water.
In terms of service at Granite Peak, I first served on the Committee on Ministry, with Randy Phillips and Sally Richards and Dan Spencer. I enjoyed working with those folks tremendously. I felt like I was doing something worthwhile, and I decided that I could continue serving in any way that I could. So I served as treasurer for 4 years. I chaired the Committee on Ministry with Carla Brockie for 3 years, and then I returned as treasurer for another.
Actually, that was a little test of lip reading. During the next few moments, we remember our joys and sorrows and realize they came about because of change, a change in health, a change in relationships, a change in circumstances. Here in our spiritual community, we find and build connection. We trust in the strength of our mutual support, knowing how it has sustained us day after day, year after year. As we experience a time of meditation and music, and the music that will be by Lena, if there is an event that moves you to joy or concern, hope or gratitude, I invite you to come forward silently and drop a pebble from the dish into the communal waters as an affirmation of our connection to one another. Join me in singing these words. Walking, walking with you. Walking, walking with you. Walking with you is my prayer. You really didn't want to hear me singing that. And thank you, Lena. And I've got a little secret that Lena told me the other day. I'm going to share with you. She improvises that music for this one. And I think that's great to have that kind of an ability. The offering is a spiritual practice, a collective affirmation of our shared values and commitment to the mission of the liberal religious congregation. We also give back to the greater community through our Seeds of Support program. This month's recipient is the Opportunity Scholarship at Yavapai College, which gives scholarships to students who aren't legal here, or I hate to use that word. But I'd like to say a little moment about the Seeds of Support program and how it actually works. So what happens is the money that is in the pouch, if it's in cash, 50% of it goes to the congregation, 50% of it goes to Seeds of Support. If you write a check and put in the line, a memo line, for Seeds of Support, the whole check goes to Seeds of Support. Or if you put in the memo line for congregation, the whole amount goes to the congregation. If there is nothing in the memo line, then it will be split 50-50. So everybody clear about that? Because apparently we've heard some people, they weren't quite clear about how this worked. All right. Oh, so you give online, the link is available in the chat, or you can go to the website. Please enjoy our offertory music, which is offertory music. Let's see what I have. Oh, what the world needs now is love. We acknowledge the generosity of spirit expressed through this offering. What is given in love is received in gratitude. Blessed be. Our reading today is by Flavia Mudrat, I guess. I never quite figured out how to pronounce that one. The world has had many great leaders over the course of history, leaders that have earned our respect for being able to think strategically and make the right decisions in times of trouble. However, the ones that we love the most are the ones who not only talked about peace, but actually did whatever they could to maintain it. But making this world a better place is not a one man's job, no matter how great he is. We all have to contribute in some way in order to make our world a safer and less chaotic place. And the first step would be to become better individuals ourselves. Peace starts with you when you act from a place of kindness and understanding, when you learn to say sorry because you made a mistake, when you are able to accept that others can have different opinions and not take that as a personal attack. Peace also starts when you become a voice for the ones that are not heard, when you no longer ignore people that are marginalized or left out because they are not your problem. May it be so.
Love is but the song we sing, and fear's the way we die. You can make the mountains ring, or make the angels cry. Though the bird is on the wing, and you may not know why. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Some may come and some may go, we will surely pass. When the one that left us here returns for us at last, we are but a moment's sunlight fading in the grass. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. If you hear the song I sing, you will understand. Listen. You hold the key to love and fear, all in your trembling hand. Just one key unlocks them both. It's there at your command. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Right now, right now, right now. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I want to say a couple of thank yous. One is to Bill and Sue Ellen, who I didn't give a whole lot of time to prepare for this, but they did a great job, I think, in bringing some music to us today that is, I hope, kind of fits into our theme for today. I also want to say something about a thank you for, it's Elaine right back there. Let's give her a hand, because the sound person is person that never gets noticed until something goes wrong, but she's stepping in there to do a great job today. And the music for the offertory was a wonderful fit as well. Thank you. Anybody want to stretch? Feel free. Stretching on Sunday is a good thing. Well, remember the age of Aquarius? What we might call the New Age. Now, those two expressions are kind of, I'm going to use them interchangeably, but they maybe don't mean quite the same thing. But this crowd looks a little young to remember any of this that I'm about to talk about. But I was in the middle of it, and so I'm going to share with you some of my Age of Aquarius bona fides. It's all started when I was born on February 2nd, which made me an Aquarian. My mother was responsible for that, I guess. But I was in Columbus, Ohio, demonstrating after Kent State, and in Washington, D.C. At a big demonstration that I believe was in 1969. Maybe some of you were there, I don't know. I went to work washing pots and pans at Maharishi International University in Isla Vista, California. I sat on the grass at Ojai and listened to Krishnamurti. I heard Werner Erhard speak in San Francisco. I became a TM, that's Transcendental Meditation teacher, if it doesn't ring a bell, in 1974, and eventually became a Unity minister in 1990. So I know what you're thinking. He must be really old. Well, I think of the age of Aquarius as having its main expression starting in the 60s and really going through the 70s and into the 80s and 90s. This is what we're calling the dawning of the age of Aquarius. It seemed to be a time of expanding peace, love, and understanding. It was a time when we could see the evidence of a transformation of consciousness around the world. We seemed to be on a trajectory to a transformed world with barriers coming down. War no longer seemed relevant, and the spiritual evolution of the planet was underway. We had a whole new genre of New Age music. We had the harmonic convergence and the world peace meditation, the human potential movement, the rise of personal growth, meditation, yoga, Findhorn, and holistic health. And with apologies to some of you who are a little on the younger side, I'm going to share with you some names and expressions that might ring a bell. Celestine prophecy, Ravi Shankar, Gaia, paradigm shift, intentional community, Edgar Cayce, Ram Dass, psychic fair, feng shui, past life regression, shamans, Wayne Dyer, spirit guides, guardian angels, auras, alternative medicine, est, and the Tao of physics. And I probably should include tie-dye because I think we've got some beautiful examples of that here today. Kind of makes you want to burn some incense, doesn't it? During this period of time, we had the fall of the Berlin Wall and the Soviet Union, and Brezhnev said, and I quote him, "Humankind is entering a new age." Brezhnev. The number of democracies in the world rose significantly in the second half of the 20th century. And by the way, the number has fallen off since 2010. We saw significant progress in the rights of women and minorities and indigenous people. There was the inauguration of Earth Day, and ecology became a daily word, an everyday word. We took the technology of the Second World War and used it to go to the moon, which has been declared by some to be the greatest technological accomplishment in the history of humankind. And by the way, the lunar lander for Apollo 13 was called Aquarius, and the theme for that whole mission was that song, The Age of Aquarius. And when the astronauts landed on the moon, they did plant an American flag, but they also brought a plaque with them, and it didn't say, "We claim this on behalf of the United States of America." What it did say was, We came in peace for all mankind. I talked to somebody recently who said they were in Spain when Armstrong walked on the moon. And he said that the streets were empty in Spain because everybody's watching this event on television. And all over the world, I think that we had a global moment there when practically everybody in the world who had a television set was watching Armstrong take that step onto the moon. And it gave us the image of spaceship Earth and the Earthrise. That is, unless you're driving your truck around the square in downtown Prescott and it says, hoax, flat Earth society. The peace symbol that we're familiar with was originally the symbol of the nuclear disarmament movement. And it's true that a series of disarmament steps were taken, a reduction in nuclear weapons, and it seems the reduction of the threat of war, of nuclear war. Now, is it true that some of it was kind of hokey and overcooked and half-baked? Well, sure. But there was a lot that was exciting and inspiring and expansive. And to a significant degree, back in those days, it seemed like love was in the air. So where do we find ourselves now? We seem to be deep in an era of cynicism and fear, the glorification of the ego in public and private life. We have American citizens arming themselves with military weapons and shootings in primary schools. We're dealing with climate change, maybe a new Cold War and a new arms race. We've just gone through a global pandemic that killed 3 million people. Who would have thought we'd see another war in Europe? We've gone from movies like Close Encounters and E.T. and Starman where aliens were benevolent beings, back to movies about horrible monsters from outer space and zombies. And we have a new level of vitriol in our contemporary communication. Today, if you went on Twitter, X, I guess I'm supposed to say, to promote love as a concept in international relations, you'd probably be torn to shreds online. It's a bit discouraging, isn't it? So what happened? And where are we going? Was all this talk about a new age of peace, love, and understanding a mirage? Are we circling the drain of history? Was the growth in consciousness a delusion? I think not. I think not, and I have spent some time thinking about it because, frankly, I miss all that from back in those days. And we went to hear the Peter, Paul, and Mary tribute group not too long ago. And it felt kind of emotional to me, and I don't think it was just nostalgia. It was about the values of the music that they sang. So I'd like to share with you a personal point of view on this subject. These are simply my thoughts, so feel free to disagree, but I'm just hoping that maybe this will give us some food for thought. I believe that the human race is evolving spiritually. We are evolving in consciousness. And when I say evolving, it's not just about survival of the fittest. We are moving in the direction of a more enlightened era when individually and collectively we will be living at a higher level of consciousness. Yes, an era of greater peace, love, and understanding, fulfilling the potential of the human race for the highest good. However, I think that this process is not made in a smooth and uninterrupted and steady line. I tend to think of this world as a classroom for our souls, and it's a very dynamic classroom. I think progress is made in steps and stages, and there's a swing of a pendulum in this progression. The swing of the pendulum could simply be characterized as the swing between love and fear. Could I have a slide, Elaine, please? Okay, that's good right there. Thank you. So this is about, I guess I should feel a little apologetic about my graphic stuff here, but I'm hoping that maybe this will help to kind of illustrate things. This graphic presentation is less than perfect, like the rest of my presentation, but I think it'll serve our purposes for today. So I thought this would give us a chance to look at human history in a little different context. And we're going to start with the fact, what I'm calling the age of the masters. Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad were born within a period of about 1,000 years. And I believe that collectively they shifted the consciousness on the planet. Now, I guess I should also make a little disclaimer about the fact that I'm not a historian nor a philosopher, so take that as you will. But during that period, the democracy of Greece rose and then fell. The Republic of Rome rose and was about to fall. There were some great philosophers and scientists who existed during this period that we might call the classical period. Civilization seemed to be taking a big step forward. Now, this has a Western civilization bias because, frankly, I don't know enough about Eastern civilization. Then there was a period that has been described as the Dark Ages. Elaine, if you give me the next slide. The pendulum swung. Greater repression and religious limitation, the Inquisition, the Black Plague that killed between 30 and 50% of the population of Europe. Then the pendulum swung again into the Renaissance in the Western world. It rolled into a period called the Enlightenment. It was a time of when the expression of art, culture, religion, and political life, and it was also a time in the rebirth of democracy and the beginning of the Industrial Revolution and the age of electrification. The second half of the 1800s saw an influx of spiritual teachers into the West that culminated in the Parliament of World Religions in 1893 in Chicago. Then came the first half of the 20th century. It proved to be the most violent era in the history of humankind, with as many as 100 million people dying in 2 world wars, a global depression, new weapons of mass destruction, indicating a major swing of the pendulum. And also, we would include approximately 21 million people who died in the influenza epidemic of 1918. Then in the next slide, we have a shift to the second half of the 20th century, what was characterized by some as the dawning of a new age, and a remarkable acceleration in the evolution of the consciousness of humankind. In this period, we saw the emergence of several legitimate spiritual luminaries, some of them arriving in the first half of the 20th century as harbingers of what was to come later. In my view, this includes Krishnamurti, Yogananda, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, Ramana Maharishi, Vivekananda, the Dalai Lama, Eckhart Tolle, Brian Cady, Michael Singer, and of course Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. And I believe many more who are perhaps in ashram somewhere or meditating in a forest, or maybe they're doing landscaping in California and living over somebody's garage. I don't know, but it seems to me that there is a cadre, a brotherhood and sisterhood of enlightened beings that are perhaps contributing a great deal towards holding this whole thing together. During this period of time, there was an influx of Eastern religious ideas into the West and an expansion of out-of-the-box thinking in religion. Spiritual teachings were now available to spiritual teachings that had only been available to the initiated in the past were now available to anyone who had a television or could read a book. But the pendulum was bound to swing back. And here we are today with a lot of sobering developments. However, I would like to say that this spiritual momentum, which may seem to have evaporated, is actually still here with a powerful undercurrent that isn't always evident, but it might be mitigating some of the more difficult things that could happen otherwise. Before we leave this slide, I want to ask you to imagine a slide that isn't there that I thought later I could have included. And that is the next swing of the pendulum. If we were to imagine that this pendulum is going to be swinging back at some point, what is that next swing of the pendulum going to be called? Are we going to call it the age of peace? Are we going to call it the full sunshine of the age of Aquarius instead of the dawn? Are we going to call it the age of enlightenment part 2? And what's it going to look like? I think it's something that's, of course, we don't know what this next swing of the pendulum is going to look like, but I think it's an important thing for us to contemplate, the fact that this pendulum is going to swing back. We're going to talk about Hegel in a moment, but I'm going to interrupt myself with a little story for you. It goes like this. A pastor was using squirrels as an object lesson in a children's sermon. He said, I'm going to describe something, and I want you to raise your hand when you know what it is. This thing lives in trees. It eats nuts. No hands went up. And it is gray, and it has a long, bushy tail. The children were looking at each other, but still no hand was raised. And it jumps from branch to branch and chatters and flips its tail when it gets excited. Finally, one little boy tentatively raised his hand. The pastor breathed a sigh of relief and called on him. Well, said the boy, I know the answer must be Jesus, but it sure sounds like a squirrel to me. So, Elaine, if you go to the next slide, I'm going to talk about Hegel, because to me, this process that I've been talking about is more understandable in the context of something that Hegel shared with us. Now, this is a quote that came from Wikipedia, and so I'm going to read it. It goes like this. In the idealistic philosophical theory of the German George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, the thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis, it's not easy for me to say, are the three phases of an evolutionary process of the human spirit that repeats itself in search of truth. Now, even though it's hard to pronounce for me, I'm going to repeat it because this is sort of a key element in what I have to share with you today. The thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis are three phases of an evolutionary process of the human spirit that repeats itself in search of truth. Now, I confess that I tried reading Hegel and understanding what he was saying, and I was pretty much completely lost, but I do believe that we can take this from him. The process of spiritual evolution can be seen in a cycle that he is describing. First, a new thesis arises. Elaine, could you give me the next slide, please? A thesis is an idea. The dictionary says it is a statement or concept put forth for discussion or proof. So we're going to use Jesus as an example here. Now, we could debate the exact nature of his thesis because I feel he came into this life and shared a thesis with us, essentially, with humanity. And we could probably debate what it actually would look like, but I'm going to suggest that it consisted of essentially this. God is love, we are one with God, and the kingdom of heaven is here and now. So this, if indeed this was his thesis, he brought this into the consciousness of humankind. Next slide. The second stage of this process is the antithesis. that which is unlike the thesis or contradicts it rises up in opposition. We could say here in fear and opposition. And we could recall the reaction of, and we could call it the reaction of the ego, which, by the way, Emerson described as our bloated nothingness. It does its best to crush the message and the messenger. But then comes the next step, which in the next slide includes the synthesis. Now, out of the clash between the thesis and the antithesis comes the synthesis, which is something new. It's a step. Now, we could say, if we're going to use Jesus as an example, we could say that the seed of his message survived, though he didn't, and merged with what was left of the Roman Empire and Western civilization and became a religion called Christianity. And I would call that a synthesis. It's not a pure expression of Jesus' message, but it was a step forward in the evolution of human consciousness, imperfect though it may be. So I submit that the new age, the age of Aquarius, is still on the horizon. There's a process that is underway, and I see the thesis of the new age as essentially the same as what Jesus was introducing, although the clothing of it is somewhat different. It comes in tie-dye instead of robes. But I think if we were to think about what the thesis of that age of Aquarius might be, I would say that we could perhaps say that it was love, freedom, and honoring the universal spirit that unites all humanity. Now, this thesis expressed in many ways, and we know there was a lot of kind of cuckoo stuff that went on. It was a little mixed up, but the essence of it was powerful to transform lives and societies. And so the antithesis was inevitable. The reaction was inevitable. Here's a quote from Ernest Holmes, who was a teacher you may or may not be familiar with. Love is within us. It cannot be destroyed. It can be ignored. To the extent that we abandon love, we will feel it has abandoned us. Denying love is our only problem, and embracing it is the only answer. Through the power of love, we can let go of past history and begin again. Love heals, forgives, and makes whole. So when a new thesis enters the scene, and when that thesis comes from a true place, then the ego tends to push back and the pendulum swings. The old belief system, the old fears show up, the old status quo. Now, they may be noisy, but they are not more powerful than truth. They're not more powerful than love. As Emily Cady, another a unity teacher, said, as we perceive in the consciousness of love, we find ourselves ultimately in a higher place than ever before. So for me, this little framework helps explain where we are today. The human family is evolving at an accelerating rate, but that doesn't mean that there won't be challenging days and challenging nights. I do believe that there is a benevolent power, call it what you will, that is drawing us forward and upward. So what is it for us to do today? Well, I believe it's a very important time. We don't know how far this pendulum is going to swing before it starts to swing back. We may be discouraged and tempted to be afraid and angry about how things are going and shut down our hearts and see the people we disagree with as enemies to be feared and hated. But I believe that it is time to take heart and know that this is simply a phase in a process that is ultimately lifting us up, a tide that is lifting all the boats. This is the time to stay centered in our truth to the best of our ability, to be grateful for the good in life, and there is much that is good. to stay in the moment to the best of our ability and open the door to the power of love. The process I have described here is not apart from us. We are a part of it, and to the degree to which we can nurture the love that is in our hearts, we are influencing the process. We are influencing the swing of that pendulum. It is tempting for us to get caught up in anger and fear because, frankly, they stimulate a part of us that is familiar. But when we nurture the love that is within our hearts, we are part of the solution. The universe, life, spirit, the mystery, however we may phrase it, is ultimately in charge. We can trust that there is a greater good unfolding, and if we let fear and anger overrule that love, then we become part of the problem. If we persevere in love, then we are shortening the swing of the pendulum and helping to lift the human family into the next great step in its unfolding good. God bless. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Think of your fellow man, lend him a helping hand, put a little love in your heart. You see it is getting late, oh please don't hesitate, put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you. And me. You just wait and see. Another day goes by and still the children cry. Put a little love in your heart. If you want the world to know, we won't let hatred grow. Put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me. Just wait and see. Take a good look around, and if you're looking down, put a little love in your heart. I hope when you decide, kindness will be your guide. Put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me. Just wait and see. Put a little love in your heart. 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 Take a good look around, and if you're looking down, put a little love in your heart. I hope when you decide, kindness will be your guide. Put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me. Just wait and see. Put a little love in your heart. Put a little love in your heart. Put a little love in your heart. Put a little love in your heart.
Thank you, Bill and Sue Ann. It was great having you here, and I hope you will be back sometime.
Thank you.
So our closing words by Frank Sinatra. I'm sure you're all going like, Frank Sinatra? I came across these words, and I really wanted to use them. So I did a little research on Frank Sinatra. And I think you guys might be surprised that he was very involved in the civil rights movement. He always insisted that all his backup bands were integrated. He also brought up many black performers. And he was very instrumental in integrating Las Vegas, which was a very white city at that point. And I'll share a little story about that time. He was performing, Nat King Cole was performing at the same time he was. And he discovered that Nat King Cole's dinner and meals were being taken down to his dressing room. So he had his valet check this out and find out why. Well, the reason why was he wasn't allowed in the dining room because he was black. So, learning this, Frank Sinatra had all the waiters and waitresses called together, and he said to them, if you have a problem serving blacks, don't come tomorrow, because Nat King Cole will be my guest. Actually, a lot of them did not come tomorrow. But within 2 weeks of that time, the wait corps was integrated, and blacks were now allowed into the dining room. And this was the beginning of the integration of Las Vegas. So I think it's worthy of hearing a couple words from him. If you don't know the guy on the other side of the world, love him anyway, because he's just like you. He has the same dreams, the same hopes and fears. It's one word, pal. We're all neighbors. With the extinguishing of our chalice, our worship time has ended. Join me in saying the words of extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. So I said we have some guests here. Would you mind standing and introducing yourself? Or do we still? Yes.
I'm Monica. I'm traveling here from Wisconsin, and I have another review that lives in Wisconsin and is the best guy about people. And so I'm just here checking out because there is.
Well, welcome. All right, so I invite you to greet your neighbors, especially those visiting for the first time, and join us all in Davis Hall, and go in peace.